Well, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Doomcast. Holy crap. What an episode. It's me, your host, Dan Umpton, and my buddy Damon Tucker. Wow.
Yeah, quite the episode.
Yeah, it was a lot. A whole lot. And also vindicated almost everything that we had predicted.
Yep.
Like, to the letter, nearly.
Yeah.
So I don't even know where to start unpacking, but I know you have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, I do. So first of all, the title of the episode is The Spies. So that's interesting that we didn't get a whole lot revealed on what exactly that means in the episode.
Yeah.
So I do want to touch base on that after we kind of discuss the episode as a whole. But first of all, it starts off on Navarro, kind of where we left off at the end of the last episode. And Grogu gets an awesome mech suit out of the remains of IG-11, now called IG-12.
It is functionally a Gundam. Mm-hmm. Grogu has a Gundam, basically.
It's sick.
Yeah, that's just what it is.
And he can say yes and no, which is a huge improvement on what he's been able to do up until now.
And he does that a lot, and it's one of the funniest things that I've seen in probably anything Disney Plus ever. It was one of the best gags that I loved it.
Just walking through town, yes.
Well, because, you could imagine, is like the equivalent of a 9-year-old kid that's in a frickin' Gundam. Yeah. That's all you would be doing. You'd be, yes! Yeah, it is dope.
So, yeah, very cool. And then it's quickly just kind of explained that the plan of the now kind of conjoined forces of Bo-Katan's former group and Din's former or existing group that have come all together now are going to try to retake Mandalore and salvage what they can and take back whatever remains of the Great Forge. And before they get there, we get a scene where Elia Kane, as we suspected, is still working with Gideon, chats with him, tells him that the Mandalorians were responsible for stopping the pirate attack on Navarro. So our boy Carson Teva was correct in his assumption that the pirates were not acting alone and that they were working with former Empire people. So that was kind of cool. So we do know that Elia Kane is probably one of the spies, which is not a huge surprise. We basically got that confirmed when on the episode they kind of touched on what she's up to a few episodes ago. But holy shit, the the little dark council that Gideon meets up with.
Yeah, the dude with the mustache, wasn't he in a character in Jedi or supposed to be?
I don't know, but Hux was there.
Yeah. Well, okay, wait. Is that
that is
the
Hux.
the same Hux, or is it because
it was
same
Hux.
Brondell Hux or whatever?
Yeah, okay. That's
all right.
That's General Hux.
Dang, because played
by Donald Gleason's younger brother, in this episode.
Okay, that was what I was also wondering, was if he was related to Gleason at all. But I was also like, oh, they cut Domhnall Gleeson out, because I love that dude,
He's
unironically. Great.
And I love Hux, unironically, as a character.
Yes. Even the weird comic twist where they had him, that's probably one of the only parts of Rise of the Skywalker that I was, fine with.
Me too.
Actually. Anyway, the other thing that we get to see is the other confirmation, because they had Imperial Super Commandos in Beskar.
In Beskar, on his way in there. Also, Project Necromancer, which is clearly the reference to Snoke and Palpatine. Palpatine returns. So we know this somehow.
We're almost... If it turns out that Kane's also a Super Commando, then we're pretty much shot for shot we've been dead on.
I have some thoughts that we'll get to toward the end of this episode, wrap up on that. But so Project Necromancer, they also mention He brings up Thrawn, says that Thrawn is kind of the leader of this group, but nobody's seen him in a while.
Right.
Basically, he asks them for the resources to back him up in preventing the Mandalorians from retaking Mandalore.
And they definitely timed the Ahsoka trailer for dropping before this episode. They knew what they were doing. So yeah, that was dope. Anyway, sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I mean, after that, we go to the scene where the new Mandalorians are back to Mandalore. There's the fun scene with Axe Wolves and Paz Vizsla where they get into it.
Well, they get into it so two things here. They get onto Mandalore, and the first thing they form up, and then they see some ship show up out of nowhere, and it's a freaking sail barge, not a Jabba sail barge, but it's skittering across the now glassified surface of Mandalore, and it's the survivors of what's left of Mandalore, and they're immediately we knew Lady Bo-Katan wasn't gonna forsake us, and they're immediately oh, sweet, we're already on board, and they're yeah, we'll take you to the Great Forge. So they form up.
Yeah, which they tell them that the Great Forge is entirely intact and fully functional, which kind of leads me to think the convenience of these people showing up right when they did and saying, we'll take you to the forge, and then walking right into a trap after that.
Oh.
Maybe those guys are the spies.
Oh, man. I didn't even think of that, but now...
The convenience of that just seems a little bit...
Yeah.
I saw some people saying that maybe the armorer is the other spy because she kind of also conveniently came up with, oh, well, I'll take these people back while you guys go there. Her motivations don't seem clear, but I just don't see, with everything we know with them, with Gideon destroying the Mandalorian covert on Navarro in season 1, and just everything else about these people does not seem quite she seems maybe the most adamantly against outsiders taking control of Mandalore in any way.
It did seem real sus that she left the planet, though, and went back to the fleet. And I was what I thought was she's either going back and knows something and is going to betray the people on the ground for whatever her reasons were, or two, there's a bomb in that ship that those guys planted. I don't know. I expected something to happen with the craft and the fleet, and maybe I think that's a perfectly plausible thing because that's kind of left wide open.
Sure.
But no, Woves and Vizsla get into it with vibro knives over essentially a chess game that honestly I would like to play an electronic version of.
Yeah.
If you package that as something that you could play on Switch or on mobile, I would play that.
Yep.
Disney needs to get on it. And they would also need to clarify whether or not you can move at flank as a wing guard or enforcer. I feel like those are house rules. It's like they got to the equivalent of where, you know how when you play Uno and sometimes some people are just no, you hit me with a draw 4, I can hit you with a draw 4, now you have to draw 8. Technically not the way it's supposed to be played, but that's house rules.
Yep.
But they threw down on that.
So it was basically like me playing Monopoly with my dad.
You son of a bitch! Just jumping across the
board
table.
was thrown. And of course, we got Grogu getting in between them and breaking it up after the rest of them decided that they would stay out of it. I think Paz Vizsla would have won that fight if it had gone to the end. I felt like that kind of in the beginning. I don't know.
Yeah.
The whole time I was watching it, I was like, I feel like this is going to get broken up, but I wonder who would win if they saw this through.
I do think it would have been Vizsla. Which, yeah, we're going to have to get to that part as well, because they end up on the at the Great Forge, which they find is mostly intact, but then immediately get ambushed by Imperial super commandos in white.
Yep.
Which are astonishing. Like, I don't understand why they don't have like more counters. They're still shooting blasters at people in Beskar. So like, my question is like, as Mandalorians, you have to have tactics to combat other Mandalorians.
So I felt like actually I was kind of paying as close attention as I could to where they were shooting people when they were actually when they were actually taking enemies down. And there was a lot of in between the armor space.
Yeah.
And I felt like they did a really good job of showing that as best as they can. Because there were a lot of just like taking hits and then not going down on both ways. And then you could see that the Mandalorians were obviously more skilled in finding those vulnerabilities in between the armor.
Yeah, you get the impression that those people are very likely just either regular rank and file stormtroopers who are in Beskar armor, or, I mean, they might be something more highly trained. Who knows? They might be survivors of Mandalore that like aren't really versed in, but a lot of you get a lot of like fire use though, and then there was like the lariats or whatever, lassos, whipping people around. That was sweet. But there was one where like Din just like knocked a guy down and then just put two in his toe, and I was like, that is gangster as fuck. That's crazy. But anyway.
Well, I should mention that we also got a couple of mentions of how did Gideon have the Darksaber in the first place when he had it, which turns out, Bo-Katan surrendered Mandalore over to Gideon when there was no hope left for them. It felt like it was the only option. So she gave it to him. And obviously, there's shame or whatever on her side. And Din tells her, I don't care. Like, I don't really care about this sword. And most of my people don't really care about it either. Like, do what you're gonna do.
Right.
We still want to follow you. I don't care about that. This symbolic sword, which is kind of funny, and in light of what happened in the last episode, how it was important for her to be able to gain her previous followers. So to know that the new people that just joined her aren't doing it for that is kind of cool.
Yeah, and then he did the whole like nightly thing where he's like, "That's why I serve you, Lady Kryze."
Your song is not yet finished, or it's not yet written.
Yeah, it's a little corny, but it's also like Din is there's some developmental shortcomings, so you expect a little bit of cringe.
He had some dogmatic upbringing.
Right. He's a little bit of a white knight, but like I feel like he's authentic in this, where he's just like, yeah, I'm loyal to you, so that's cool. But yeah, so post Forge ambush, they pursue the rest of these commandos back into like they're going to run them down, and they end up inside of what looked like Imperial infrastructure. I was like, oh, they are in for it, and that is where the TIE interceptors came from. We know, and that is he's got a little base on Mandalore.
Yep.
And he's got his own goddamn Dark Trooper Mando armor.
Yes, which. All right, I want to talk about the helmet.
Yeah, okay.
So the helmet has horns on it, kind of in between what like the armor has on her helmet,
right,
and what the like Darth Maul era of Mandalorians had. Now here's the thing. So Gideon is a very cool villain because he just adapts. He learns from his mistakes and he comes up with a better solution every time. And that's what kind of makes him so dangerous. And he's borrowing stuff from the people who have, whether it's the clone era from the Clone Wars and bringing cloning technology, or the Beskar from the Mandalorians. And so helmet design looked kind of like, what's his name? Gar Saxon. So Gar Saxon was originally Death Watch under Pre Vizsla. Pre Vizsla is killed by Darth Maul.
Oh yeah, he was the guy who would like immediately switch sides.
Immediately switch sides.
Okay.
Followed Darth Maul all the way through until, Daddy Palps comes in and removes him. And then the next time we see Gar Saxon, he's the Imperial Viceroy Governor of Mandalore, and he's wielding the Darksaber. He's in charge of Mandalore.
Is that in Rebels?
That is in Rebels.
Shit. Okay.
And so he no longer has the horns on his helmet. He now has a much more Imperial looking Mandalorian armor, which instead of horns just kind of has 2 antennas that just come straight up.
Okay.
And then so he loses the Darksaber to Sabine, and then Sabine gave it to Bo-Katan. That's kind of where the possession of the Darksaber through line is.
She gave it to Bo-Katan, and then Bo-Katan wouldn't take it from Din later. Interesting.
So her reason was that Bo-Katan didn't want to take it because she felt like because she didn't earn it, that's why she didn't deserve to have it in the first place.
Oh, got it. So she didn't want to take it because she didn't want to repeat her mistake.
Correct.
Okay, fair. That makes sense.
So there is that history of Mandalorians, and working hand in hand with the Empire in the past.
Oh yeah.
Potentially, part of whatever gave Gideon the control that he did. It seems unlikely that he just came in with his own people and didn't. We know that he works with spies.
Yeah, I think we're definitely gonna get reveals of that and what happened, and I do wonder if the armorer has something to do with that, because that would also explain why the Mandalorians in the covert on Concordia were spared, because they had to have known about them, right? Anyway.
There were...
Or maybe not, I don't know.
Some of the ones that were on Concordia were of the one Mandalorian who said, I've been here before, I know where to go. He was part of the Children of the Watch. He'd been there before.
Interesting.
At least I assumed based on kind of his armor. It didn't look as kind of uniform as the Bo-Katan clan.
Right. Yeah. I know. Okay. I'm with you.
That doesn't rule out the armor. I just feel like it's less likely. I really feel strongly that the people who said they were the survivors who led them right to it were
right.
They seem sketch.
Yeah, that's definitely highly suspect. So yeah, we should talk about the ending there, because they end up getting cornered. And they being the Imperials manage to separate with a blast door Din from everybody else, capture him, lock both of his arms down, both of his legs down, and then Gideon comes out to gloat and feel all special, does his monologue, and then they take Din away, and he's basically like, look, Bo, give me the Darksaber again, and I'll take it, and, that'll be that. How about that? You'll have lost it again. And she turns around and cuts a hole in the back, and then Paz is just like, go without me. I'm going to hold him off.
Ooh.
And he does and the second he did that, I was like, he's not turning around.
Yeah.
He's not turning around. He's giving him, Jon Favreau is giving Jon Favreau his hero's death that but yikes, because he took out a whole lot of those dudes.
He took out all of the people in Beskar.
Yeah.
All of them.
When he overheated the gun, then he starts just slamming people around.
Can we pause on how cool that was?
Yeah.
He just, used his Gatling until it was just a hot, melting piece of metal in his hands that is no longer working.
Literally just slaps a dude with it and then turns around and slaps the next dude with his fists.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't pull out the vibro knife that we clearly understood that he had. He could have pulled. I don't know. Will a vibro knife cut through Beth's scar? Probably not. Maybe.
That's a good question. I don't know.
It'll at least cut through like armor spaces because it looks like it's mostly cloth. So anyway.
I mean, he didn't use it on the. He didn't use it. Wait, he did pull out a vibro knife for the Praetorian guards.
Yes, he did. And yeah, that's true. I don't know why he didn't pull out. Yeah, and he had the energy shield also.
But those Praetorian guards fucked him up quick.
And they were like, in Fallen Order, where the first time you have to fight one of the, like, Inquisitor, like, I don't remember what they're called. Those dudes. Those guys suck. And immediately, like, the color of their weapons, I was like, those are kind of the same dudes. I don't like these guys at all. But yeah, they kind of swarmed him, and I was like, I know what that feels like. Kind of. It sucked.
And then, yeah, he just got... He died a warrior's death.
Yeah.
Exactly the way, whatever the Mandalorian afterlife is, he made it there.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like
He's in their Valhalla.
That's some legendary stuff. Like, I don't know. Yeah, we're going to have a very upsetting scene where somebody has to explain to Ragnar they're not going to see his dad again. That sucks.
Yeah. Now, Din has 2 kids.
I also wonder if that's going to create reopen the rift of, with Bo-Katan, because he basically, gave it up just so that she could escape, which is, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But that was, and that's where the episode ended. I definitely was like, oh, he's not going to come back. But I didn't expect it to be like that level of epic. Mm-hmm. Every part of the episode where I was like, oh, I got something epic coming, I was just like, they doubled down on it. Ended up being probably one of the best hours of Star Wars, even including film. One of the best hours of Star Wars. Easily.
Yeah, a lot of the criticism of this season, which I don't agree with, has been that it's been a lot of fetch quests and side quests and filler episodes. This was not that, even a little bit. This was all the stuff. But this episode, I would hope that haters up until this point could at least not go, oh, well, this isn't even telling the story.
Yeah.
Like we said, like we've been saying all along, Gideon, like leading up to Thrawn, explaining the cloning stuff, like it's all kind of come to fruition. That, and I was even saying, I think it'll probably be the second to last episode where we see Gideon and where we start to hear some of this stuff.
You were 100% spot on there.
Because the finale is much more questionable. Who knows? Why capture Din instead of kill him? Right.
I have no real good explanation or prediction for the final episode. Not because I don't want to be wrong. I only have questions that I want to see answered.
Right.
That I want to know. I want to know what Project Necromancer, like some of the details, I hope. I want to see how they resolve. I am calling that Kane's going to end up in Super Commando armor. I do think something goes down with the armorer herself. Mm-hmm. Man, it would be wild. There's no way they're killing Din off.
No.
I don't think so.
I think we're gonna have another Grogu flashback in the finale. That's my only. Yeah, and I don't think that Gideon is gonna be, killed off at the end of this. Maybe, but I do think that Thrawn is likely gonna supplant what Gideon is, because I don't think those two characters. Gideon is kind of showed through. At least through this episode, if not kind of just his general demeanor, that he's not going to be ordered around by a higher authority figure. He kind of wants to be the king. He wants to be the Gus Fring.
Yeah. And he's not going to share power with somebody else.
Right.
And yeah, there isn't. What was the name of the people that blew Gus Fring up in Breaking Bad? Anyway, Thrawn is those guys. Thrawn is the people.
The Salamancas.
Yeah, Thrawn is all of the Salamancas meshed into one. So I don't think they're going to. I think I previously compared, Gideon to Magneto, although he's a more malevolent, less moral Magneto, but like Thrawn is the Doom of that crew, and I don't think that the two of those get along for very long. So we're gonna see, and we will probably see next week. But either way, we will see you next week. Thank you for watching. I'm Dan Upton.
And I'm Damon Tucker.
And we will see you on Wednesday, the 19th. Peace.